incumbent on you as commissioners to take the required harassment training that the rest of us take. So Leanne from HR has emailed you those links. So if she needs to re-email you, that way you can kind of see what all the other employees are taking for the abbreviated harassment training. A lot of the changes and updates that are in the handbook now come directly from that training because, as you're all aware, laws change and things are updated. That's why we take it every year. So I just want to touch on a couple of things that I put in your packet in regard to this. I tried to expand the definition of a zero tolerance policy because sometimes employees don't understand what that means, and they think if they accuse somebody of harassment, then there's a zero tolerance policy, then that person will be investigated or dismissed or whatnot. So zero tolerance simply means that every reported incident will be investigated. And so it's not something to be blown off. So, and if there is something that is found to be of merit, then that will be dealt with according to the rest of the policy. The biggest part of this harassment policy is the definitions. And so we go through in section 8.2 the definitions of general harassment, then what creates a hostile work environment. Then there's a specific spot on page 2 for sexual harassment under this umbrella of the whole thing. And then a little bit of explaining about what quid pro quo means. Sometimes you assume everybody knows what that means, but we add a little bit to the definition that kind of helps that. And then a section that was added this year is employee relationships, especially relationships of a romantic nature, and that's on the third page in there. I pulled this from some other documents that are out there. I think it doesn't prohibit relationships in general, but it just gives some guidelines to say, think about this, think about how awkward this could be, what's going to happen when you break up, those sort of things. And then it does explicitly not allow romantic relationships between supervisors and their subordinates. So this is new language that we've put in here. Then of course we talk about what retaliation is, and the rest of the article is pretty much what we've always had in regards to the process, who it applies to, which is everyone, and the process for logging a complaint. So any questions, thoughts, or comments from the commissioners on this update? All right. If none, the other one that was in your packet was just a two-pager, pretty boilerplate whistleblower protection policy. Basically, this protects any employee who feels the need to report something that might be a danger or a detriment to and it adversely impact the county. So, didn't know if there's any thoughts or comments or questions on that one. And that's pretty much all I had on the updates. My goal is to get this review done by the next meeting, and then in November you can take a couple of meetings to look at any edits and changes that we've made to the entire handbook and have it approved by the end of the year.
No questions or comments, we can go on to the ACO, Animal Control Officer.
All right. So I put together a couple of slides for you on this, and this is in response to a letter that the commissioners received from the selectmen in Norridgewock, basically bringing up the concerns that Norridgewock and many other towns have had with maintaining a consistent animal control officer. I'll just read the last paragraph because this is really what Norridgewock is asking. And the selectmen write, "We believe that a larger regionalized effort can help improve response times and minimize the threat to public safety. it may be prudent for the county to take the lead in creating regionalized ACO positions that are shared by municipalities and offer redundancies. It is our hope that you will seriously explore the concept of employing animal control officers at the county level. We look forward to more discussion about this matter and believe that if asked about this prospect, a majority of county towns would also support the measure. So that's kind of what prompted the workshop today. We do have some representatives from other communities here that might be interested in what we're discussing. And certainly I don't expect any answers to be pounded out today, but I just wanted to give you an idea. Animal control, it's required by state statute. Every municipality, including the UT, has to have a certified animal control officer, and they have to maintain a contract with a licensed animal shelter to accept stray animals. Some of your general ACO responsibilities: domesticated animal complaints, dogs running at large, enforcement of rabies vaccinations, providing medical care, which is usually in conjunction with a shelter, enforcement of municipal ordinances, animal trespass situations, a lot of that is setting traps, initial investigation of animal cruelty complaints. I'll just touch on a little bit of my experience in Madison with municipal animal ordinances. This is kind of like akin to having one code officer that covers the whole county, as different towns, depending on their size and their ordinances, have different standards of code. Different towns, depending on their size and ordinances, have different animal ordinances. Some towns have more stringent animal ordinances than other towns, so it's not a one-size-fits-all. For example, Madison has a very specific dog barking ordinance, and that dog barking must be barking for 20 minutes consecutively or intermittently for an hour for the animal control officer to have anything to stand on, which has led to a lot of phone recordings of dogs that they record from.
Probably all started with one particular dog.
Right. Also in Madison, they have size requirements that you have to have over 3/4 of an acre if you're going to have certain types of livestock on your property. And there's limits on how many chickens you can have if you have property in town. So Madison is a kind of your poster child for animal control, because they've kind of boxed themselves in with all sorts of tricky ordinances. So I can speak to that because that's my town as well. A couple more things I just wanted to bring to your attention here is what other counties are doing. So Penobscot County and Hancock County both offer kind of a ACO help. So their models are very similar. They use the ACO that operates in their unorganized territory. It's usually a part-time employee, and they offer the services of that employee to smaller towns. And in Penobscot, there's about 12 towns that take the services. Those towns are billed monthly for the hours and the mileage spent by the ACO in that community. In 2023, the Penobscot ACO responded to 628 calls. In Hancock, they do the same thing. They offer their ACO that works in the UT, and they cover about 9 towns. Hancock is different. You'll see on the map. Hancock is different because most of their UTs are islands. So in 23, the Hancock ACO responded to about 500 calls for 656 hours. So they bill a little bit differently. Hancock County bills a stipend per town of $2,500, and on top of that, they bill for hours and mileage. Penobscot does not offer they just bill for miles and hours. The UT coordinator in Hancock told me that the stipend was kind of a turnoff for some towns, so they opted not to take it. But this next slide gives you an idea of where you're talking about. So the yellow spots in Penobscot and the yellow spots in Hancock are the non-UT communities that are served by this ACO. So you can see the proximity, they're pretty close to each other, and these ACO officers also work in the UT. What I want to do now is I want to kind of transition to what we offer for animal control in the UT, who does that for us, and what our current budget is, and then I'm going to pause and make an assumption here. So in Somerset, Bill Shaw is the appointed ACO for the UT. He is also the appointed ACO for the Forks and Moscow and Bingham. So you can see he's got a pretty large area. According to dispatch, Bill's only received about 15 ACO calls year to date, and he hasn't billed us in a year and a half. So there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of ACO work that is being reported in our UTs. Dave provided me the numbers going back to 2018. You can see back in 18, that was our busiest year for animal control. We had about $500 in wages, $700 and some dollars in mileage, and we spent about $2,500. So for our animal control model right now in the UT, we're not spending much more than $2,000 a year. Half of that, if not more, is our agreements with the animal shelters that we're required to have by state statute.
Is that a line in our UT budget?
Yeah.
It is. No. And so, looking at what Norwalk's letter said, talking emails with Richard LaBelle, I don't know if we're looking at two different types of models here. I don't think what Norwalk is asking is for something similar to what Penobscot and Hancock are doing, to take that UT person and then just kind of farm them out to all sorts of different towns that would want help with an ACO. I think what Norwalk is talking about is that the county consider staffing a full-time person as a public safety person that would coordinate with all the towns, not be their only ACO. The towns would still keep their ACOs, but this person that's a full-time employee of the county would therefore provide backup, provide fill-in, and provide support. There are certain towns that have struggled, mine being one of them, Madison, finding and keeping an ACO over the years. Is just very, very difficult. So I'll stop here for a second, then we'll take a look at some larger Somerset County numbers as far as calls and so forth. And I didn't know if it was appropriate, Mr. Chairman, if we heard from any of the members of the other communities that are here. I didn't know they'd be coming.
Fine, anytime,
Yeah.
when we're ready for them to speak, that'd be great to hear from them.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
about the letter? It says, Norwalk letter says, our ACO is responsible for 6 communities. So does that mean, is that a sharing that's going, like,
So that's
is that just like cross?
that's very common. So
So they're doing Smithfield, Mercer, et cetera, et cetera.
That is correct.
But those towns also have ACOs and they just?
no,
switch back and
that
forth?
one person, for example, Buzz Bridges is the ACO for Smithfield, Mercer,
Okay.
and Norwich Walk. David Huff is the ACO for Fairfield and Detroit. And Bill Shaw's is all over the UT in those 3 towns that I had mentioned. So that's not unusual. Sheriff, I don't think Madison has an ACO right now, right?
No, so Madison, they shared with some bordering communities. An incident happened, and the ACO abruptly resigned. So Patrol is having to pick up that slack. And the calls... The calls are interesting. People are asking police to do more and more with cats and dogs, really outside their purview. So historically, it's been a problem, finding an ACO that was consistent and reliable. There's nothing that really holds them to that position, and so the turnover is great. Since Sharon Kinney, who used to do it for Skowhegan, she was a superstar at it. Since her, it's really been extremely inconsistent and problematic.
If I may piggyback off the sheriff, one of the biggest issues that we
Would
find
you
out
state
there.
your name, please?
I'm sorry, I'm Dave Buckman, I'm the chief of police in Skowhegan, and our Skowhegan ACO falls underneath the police department. So we currently usually run 2 ACOs in Skowhegan, and they alternate week by week. But some of the bigger issues that we found was pay inconsistencies everywhere. I think the town of Fairfield pays their animal control officer $25 an hour out there. The town of Skowhegan was paying $14.50, I think, minimum wage. And I just got that recently bumped up to $18 an hour, but I still think that that's actually underrated when you're asking people to drive all over the place to do things. On top of that, most of them are all required to use their own vehicles. They get reimbursed for mileage. Well, mileage these days doesn't even cover the cost of the gas that you drive on, not to mention the wear and tear of your vehicle. The big issue for me with that whole thing, and this is why we were just discussing that, you guys saw the ACO car that we have dedicated for that position on Madison Ave. It's out there so people can see it. And our ACO right now is on vacation, and my officers are running around handling calls, but we do have a second ACO interviewing to come into play here. I think one of the big keys, and not sure where the sheriff is on this, but if it was a full-time position, you could get better pay, and I think you could find somebody to be dedicated to that job, because that'd be a full-time job, and they'd be regular work, coming to work every day, with benefits, retirement, the whole works, whereas, what we see even in law enforcement is officers will leave an agency for 10 cents to go across the street just to make 10 cents more an hour, even though the benefits may be worse. So the younger generation these days is not looking for what's going to give them down the road. They're looking for what's going to give them for the day. And they're 40 hours and out, so on and so forth. So recognizing that, I'm trying to bring Skowhegan into an area where we are able to keep our ACOs engaged and employed, and they're not looking for jobs somewhere else. The reason I came here today is because of the letter that Tim was talking about, and the information in there was not accurate, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that Skowhegan does have animal control officers. We do have a vehicle that is dedicated to animal control. And whatever direction you guys go, I would really heavily think that an ACO, no matter where they're at, really needs to have a dedicated vehicle. They're picking up animals right now that are flea infested, tick infested, bed bug infested, and they're putting them into their personal cars where their families drive with them when they're not doing ACO duties. They're tearing up seats, they're ripping apart, everything that's in there. Whereas a dedicated vehicle, like for instance the one that Skowhegan has, I left the cages in it, so the animal's separated from the driver, so there's no chance for an animal that gets a little upset, has the ability to bite the driver, and then they can keep all the gear in the back safe. So, yes, sir.
Chief, I'm just wondering on the number of calls based in Skowhegan and also elsewhere. I mean, if we actually funded an ACO department, and this is very hypothetical, but if there was such a thing in the county, how many people would you need to actually provide full coverage for the county, do you think? For
the full county?
Well, for all the calls that are...
I couldn't answer that, maybe the sheriff can, but I think it would have to be a number of people, so...
We have had conversations about that. That's a very interesting concept. And there would have to be further discussions on that. You got to remember the county's 4,000 square miles, excluding Skowhegan, and who have their own ACO. And then there's the call-out time that would have to be considered. There's got to be the first step in this process is say, hey, this is the direction we want to go. The next step is getting down into the weeds to finding out how driving from Winter Street to West Front Street is minutes. Driving from Skowhegan to Bingham or whatever, or St. Albans is we're 140 miles long, 40 miles wide. Travel time. I do agree that if we do decide this is the road we want to go down, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing just because of the evolution of how today's workers, we don't have the volunteer type mentality that we've had in the past, or the people that are really willing to do things pro bono. It's forced us to rethink how we do our work. A vehicle would be something that would have to be part of the equation. And we could give them an old,
But wouldn't you need even just for it sounds like you need more than one person if you were.
yeah, so you do, again, and that's, you would need a minimum of 2. And maybe with the 2, I mean, right now, people know that people don't understand if there's a schedule or not scheduled, they just call dispatch. If we were to do it formally, put something out so everyone know the hours, again, we're getting down into the weeds of it right now, but I think you could start off with a minimum of 2, and see how it goes. But as the old saying goes, you build it, they will come. And then our cats and dog complaints and chicken complaints,
At the risk
they're all
of-
growing.
I'm not trying to be funny here, but is there a training offered at the Criminal Justice
Yes.
Academy for ACOs?
Well, there is ACO training, they have to be certified.
Okay, so some kind of training.
They provide it. So,
You're thinking of applying for the job commission?
well, that's right.
My wife-
If every commissioner could be the backup ACO for their district, then that would solve the problem.
I think with the space that you have laid out, you would have to really consolidate certain areas of the county together, apply an ACO to that area, and then move to another area, apply an ACO to that area. So the sheriff's 100% correct when he says you're gonna need multiple people to do that. And then currently, going off what Tim said, in this paper anyway, it says that a lot of ACOs get calls direct to their homes. And when Sharon Kinney was here, that was 100% accurate. That poor lady, amazing ACO, but would just get calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have been pushing away from that type of response from our ACOs. We have people call into the dispatch center. Our ACOs are trained on the radio now. They have assigned call numbers on the radio, so when they're on duty, they're utilizing that number. They're starting a call for service with that number, so that we know where our ACOs are at in the event of emergency, of a dog bite or person attacking our ACO. So that's another thing that we've really been pushing forward to, so that we can keep track of the numbers. That's what's on the screen right now, but also making sure that safety is paramount for that.
So does Jackman have an ACO?
I believe so, yes. So Tammy Barker provided me some data for everyone that they get calls through. Debbie Petrin is assigned as the Jackman ACO. And year to date, she's got 1 call. So I think, kind of getting back to the idea of a model, and like the sheriff said, not to get into the weeds at this point, but just to look at the model, I would suggest if the county were to move forward with something like this, you communicate to all the towns, do not abandon your ACOs. I think the county would provide support first, and then work with the existing ACOs. And that's what Norwalk is asking for. Norwalk is asking for backup. Norwalk is asking for help. That way you can kind of ease into this budget-wise, rather than hiring a staff of 5 people for the county. Take a look at what's in place right now, because most every town does have someone appointed as their ACO, but when they're out of town, or when they're sick, or when they're on vacation, or when 2 calls come in at the same time, it could be difficult for that coverage. So I think that, rather than jumping in to say, okay, we're going to hire X number of people, you got to work with your existing ACOs, because they're the ones that are already trained and certified.
I'm just not sure what it would all look like. So if Norwalk is deluged with dog complaints on a particular evening or something, somehow the sheriff's office or the county's notified, and we have it.
Goes through dispatch.
And we have a person that we are paying $25 an hour to.
No, not right now. But again, let's not get too far into the weeds now. So right now, if
I just want to know what Norwalk has in mind. We're going to have a person, extra personnel that we could provide backup for the town of Norwalk on this.
what they're recommending is that there are redundancies, there are additional support involved because of the number of towns that are represented by one ACO. such as Norwalk, Smithfield, and Mercer, and towns that currently don't have any ACO, such as Solon and Madison. And because ACOs run through, because it's an easy position to get burnt out on, especially if you're getting calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's always going to be a need for some support. So I think that's what we're talking about right now. So year-to-date, Norwalk has gotten 61 ACO calls, which is not bad, compared to some of the larger municipalities. And so there are protocols from every town, so when the comm center gets an ACO call, they look at the town and they know who to contact. In some places that have a municipal police department, they are told to contact the police department first. In other towns, they're told to call the ACO directly first and then notify the police department. So every town has different protocols when it comes to handling ACO calls. But on the screen there in front of you, you can see kind of what the law enforcement people in the room have been seeing, where this year we're tracking about 2,250 calls. Last year was 2,150, and then the last 3 years was about 850. So there's a significant jump in the number of calls coming to dispatch. And everybody knows the world that we live in, most of the calls that are going to ACOs are not going through dispatch, especially in the smaller town, where if you get the phone number of the animal control officer, that's who you're calling. God bless him, the young man that was Madison's ACO for a while, he was very active on Facebook. And so once the Facebook 12 got a hold of him, they called him and messaged him, and they were on him all the time. Why aren't you here? Why aren't you picking up this cat? I've been calling you about this dog. So finding the right person that can deal with the people. Animal control is 90% people. Dealing with the animals is fairly easy. It's dealing with the people and having a thick enough skin to do that. I think, as always been mentioned, that if you were able to create a full-time position with benefits, you would probably be able to attract a good candidate, but you're going to have to find the right person and the right people for this. So, and again, I'm not talking about the county doing away with Bill Shaw's work for the UT. I definitely wouldn't expect a person or even two people to cover the UT and the more popular areas. So those are just some of my thoughts. I'll be quiet.
If we were to go in that direction, in terms of it being a public safety position, would that fall under the umbrella or the SO in terms of overseeing this individual?
I think that would be up to the sheriff and the commissioners and others. I mean, it could be considered emergency services. It could come under the EOC. All the other counties run them out of their UT because they already have a UT animal control officer. But the sheriff's office might be the right spot.
The question that I have on that is, right now, we have large numbers of calls per week. How would this affect change in that? Would it increase your calls or would it decrease your calls?
So, I mean, two different things. So you get your call for service, your law enforcement. Right now, we're augmenting that because we're having to do with we're dealing with the lack of an ACO. But the calls are different. It would be a separate thing. It wouldn't be put into, because it would be, if it went to the sheriff's office, and I'm not advocating that it will, because in my years, the two biggest headaches that you can get are dogs and parking tickets. Is that it would be its own entity. And it could be a division under the county that reports to the county administrator. I mean, however you all wanted to structure that.
I mean, I asked that question because I don't think it would be preferable to put it under the umbrella of the SO. It could be in there.
Did you see how he slid it right over to admin? The sheriff did, very smooth. No, I would agree, because no matter what, you do want to, as Chief Buckman said, you do want to steer these calls through dispatch. That way you have a way of kind of documenting them, so.
And I guess the other thing for Skowhegan's side is, and again, not getting too deep in the weeds, but I have to think ahead of time here, how that, if that was a position to go through, how that would be funded, because Skowhegan, obviously, I wouldn't want to be utilizing my budget to pay for my own ACO and then having taxpayers pay for another ACO for the county. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever to our taxpayers in the town of Skowhegan. So that would be something we'd have to have to hammer out.
Well, Chief, you already do that in a sense when you pay for your own municipal police department and you pay for the sheriff's department.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I hear what you're saying, but I think.
But all joking aside, having taxes brought onto the town of Skowhegan to help fund another position that Skowhegan's already taking care of their town right now, to me, that's not acceptable.
So you bring up a good point, is if you build this model and I get in trouble when I put numbers out there, but, with, say, $25 an hour, 40 hours a week, with a pension and with benefits and all that, you're up to 6 digits now, you're up to 100,000. You throw a vehicle in there, I think we can get a good deal on the sheriff's old transport vehicle right now with 180,000 miles on it. But you're gonna spend $100,000 to $150,000 just getting this off the ground. If you do that, and what model do you want to use? Do you charge a stipend to certain towns that don't have an ACO? That'll be tricky, because sometimes a town will have an ACO today, but they won't have one tomorrow. Or, as the chief has pointed out, they don't like it, but do you just have the entire county absorb it? Because you're trying to provide support, because you're providing some support to the town of Skowhegan in the event that their ACO is out, or they're between ACOs, then the county could be providing that support, much like they're doing in Madison and Solon right now. So
Maybe it's a good opportunity for the state to move in and assign these tasks to the state police. Department of Public Safety. It's statewide, it's a probably needs a statewide solution.
this could be a good district attorney job.
There you go.
I'm Mike Watson, Selectman of Cambridge. We pay our ACO $2,500 a year, but we've had to go through 5 ACOs to get one, and we don't know how long he's gonna be, because he's old. And being involved with the county would benefit us if we didn't have one. If we had to pay, like this gentleman over here said, if we had to pay more tax to support this one and to the one we got at home, our people are gonna complain about that too. So it's either gonna, eventually it's gonna be either or. Either you have one or it's gonna be the county one. We can't be supporting both, I don't think.
Well, I envision that if the county got an ACO or 2 positions, a lot of the smaller towns would just, because it's a headache, would just do away with it.
Right. So if a smaller town did, and they basically got rid of that $2,500 budget line, and Madison's is about a $7,500 budget line. So if you got rid of that budget line, you would probably end up ahead based on what another $100,000 and $150,000 would
You
net.
could potentially make it,
But we don't have the authority to provide ACO services to towns unless they contract with us and pay us.
And we would have to do that. We would have to have some sort of MOU or contract.
They can't just say, oh, well, see you later. Thank you for your service, and not do anything. They have to pay us.
Well, they have to have some sort of appointed ACO.
You could also, if I may, you could also do a little, it'd take a little bit, but you could change your charter so that you could provide the service regardless. You can do it. I mean, it's gonna take a little bit of legal manipulation,
Yeah,
but you can do it. And then the towns would just pay, right, my town this year paid $1.0019, which is $1.96 a thousand on their county taxes. My town's valuation went up almost $6 million. So just appointing that same tax figure, 196, that would raise our taxes to 86,436. We would cover that cost if you went full out, went with your ACO and everything else, without even raising your taxes on the town now, with a raise in the valuation. You could cover it. I don't know what everybody else's budget's gonna be, but you could do it.
Another way to look at this monetarily wise is that, like town of Skowhegan, I pay $1.79 a head per capita to the Humane Society for services. Each town pays their own per capita for that as well. Depending on who is doing the job, that money could be funneled towards furnishing a full-time position, and then you don't have to pay for one. Something to look at. So there could be some ways to save money, maybe not, depending on, how much there is, so.
I don't know, I don't know if you're ever gonna save the money, but you are gonna save some people some headaches. Because my ACO is gone right now for 2 weeks because he's getting his knees operated on. So guess who's the ACO? Me!
Yep.
And I have no clue. I'm sorry.
Second in Cambridge.
So just thinking about that, and I know you didn't want to put those numbers out there, but you did, and if we're looking at this in terms of needing at least 2 people, potentially the size of this county more than,
Right.
If you look at
we're
just
talking about a very quick build of a lot.
towns touching Scout heating right now would take 2.
But I think we could do this through a pass-through, because these towns already budget money for an ACO. And I think by starting with one, evaluating a vehicle, setting up a system, and evaluating after that would give us a truer picture of what the true need was.
Mr. Chairman, I think we should have call it a subcommittee or a group, you should appoint, in your capacity as the chairman, a group of people, including selectmen from the interested towns, the sheriff's office, and our county administrator to further look into this and report back with recommendations. Because we could be talking about this for the next few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a very interesting subject, and I think we should talk. I'm not trying to duck it, I just don't, we're just having a workshop today, but it seems to me if we want to move forward on this and make a decision, we ought to.
No, I would be interested in sitting on that board if
Yeah.
you're gonna create one.
Just a minute.
There's you, the chairman, and Ken.
So that,
Chief,
so,
the sheriff.
Well, they also have to have Richard Lavelle from.
Mr. Lavelle, yeah.
Norwalk. And I believe that there'll be somebody from Fairfield because the council got a letter from Chief Gould supporting this. And they're gonna send you something, in my understanding.
yep. So,
Well, I think we should, why don't we have Tim put this committee together?
Yeah.
That would be.
Take it from there.
and I'd be glad to do that, and as you move down the road, you also want to get your budget committee members aware of this as well. So it doesn't hit them as a surprise in, March or April. So, because that's assuming where we're heading. We're heading on, building a model that would be impacted in this coming budget cycle. So I don't think we can solve the problem before that, but I think you want to.
Should we even do a letter to the town to see who's interested, period, or is
So
it just Norwich Walker?
Richard's already helped us with that. He sent his letter to every town.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
So he's being proactive. But no, I appreciate that. And that's why you have a couple people here today. I certainly didn't call these guys. But, no, I think that's something we can put together and keep you abreast of as we move forward. I'm glad to see people here talking about this because, my experience as a town manager is the same thing Mike has experienced. When an ACO is gone, it's your phone that's ringing and you're out there trying to solve the people problems of ACO.
That's the thing, if there's no ACO, it falls to the manager or the first selectman.
Yeah.
So, you have that issue.
So good.
Well, thank you. Okay, we'll continue this conversation. Which brings us to public hearings, no public hearings, and public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. Is there anyone who wishes to speak or reserve time to speak? Nobody. Okay, so we can move forward. New agenda items, commissioners only. And the administrator report.
So in my submitted report, I just want to add a couple of things to that. So Chairman Cezak is aware of this because he's on the Legislative Policy Committee, but Somerset County was one of most every county that received additional supplemental funds from the governor's last supplemental budget. And that money has been sent to us. The county received an additional $450,000. Those dollars were dedicated to medical assisted treatment in the jails. So that money has been guided by the sheriff and Patrick into the fund that basically funds our Sublocade program. And so with those additional funds, plus some grant funds, plus some opioid settlement monies, we are fully funded for the third year of the Sublocade program without any additional burden to the property taxpayer. And it's a very successful program, so that's a good thing. I just want to update you on the TIF district that was created in the two townships, Johnson Mountain and Moxie Gore, where the North New England Clean Energy Connect corridor is being built. That TIF district was approved by DECD. We got the approval letter today, and we have captured some value in there from last year to this year. So we should actually see some TIF revenues from that TIF district this December.
How will we be able to use that TIF revenue?
So that is basically going to be a supplemental to the current WIN TIF. So in the WIN TIF, we have lots of designations for capital roads and bridges and so forth. We took a lot of those same project lists from that WIN TIF and just repeated them in this TIF. So it's fairly match for match of each one of those programs there. Economic development, trails, snowmobile groomers, that sort of thing. So that's good news. Now, our attorney, John Potter with Eaton Peabody, recommends that the board take some action because there is no payment that goes back to the property taxpayer like there is in some credit enhancement agreements inside TIFs. This is the owner is CMP and they're not getting any of this money back. It's up to the commissioners each year to determine how much of it they want to keep. Do they want to keep 100% of it, 50% of it? So that the John Potter recommends that you take some action on that, and we'll do that at
Now,
the
that's
next
confusing.
meeting.
So why wouldn't we just keep it all?
Well, you have the option of not keeping it all.
What's the advantage of not keeping it all?
Optics, better for the entire UT benefiting from it, rather than just the commissioners having that control over the TIF money. So that's one of the reasons that we only chose 2 townships rather than all the townships that are impacted by the CMP corridor, because we would have exceeded the amount that we could be allowed to use, so we scaled that back down, and our attorney said that kind of looks better to the state, that we're not trying to grab all of that additional revenue. So.
But I just don't understand who gets it if we don't get it.
The state gets it.
The state gets it. And
In theory, it should lower the mill rate.
right.
Yeah.
But the mill rate would go down
In the UT.
in the UT, right?
It's pretty low already.
Pennies.
Well, right, it's not a significant drop, but,
Yeah.
right. But that's always, every time you've had a town that has a TIF, because that town that has a TIF doesn't pay as much as they could toward the county tax, or, they get breaks on their state aid to education and they get more revenue sharing. So that's always been the haves and have-not argument of TIFs, that some towns end up paying more because this town has all their sheltered stuff in the TIF. So I think it's maybe.
Well, that's not before us right now.
No, it's not. No. And that's all I have for my report.
Any questions? And going on to the administrator's report.
Nope.
I mean, to the financial report.
Finance, nothing really to report. We're still a favorable plan as of the end of the first quarter. We'll get a better picture probably at mid-year on where we really stand, because there's still a lot of timing issues. But right now, there's nothing really bad out there currently.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would say usually we skip over unfinished business, but there's a couple things here that I wanted to address before you get into your resolutions.
Well, I was going to ask the other department heads to speak.
Excellent. Okay, that's what I was going to do.
So we're on the same page.
I'll start with Dave.
Yeah, what we were going to discuss as unfinished business was the stove issue. We have a resolution coming up on that. Mike Libby did a lot of research on this for us. I thank him very much for that. Basically, it did come down to his recommendation was the one from C. Capara. And the commissioner found out that it's actually on sale for less than it was before. I called them up to make sure it's still available. They didn't mention, but we really weren't talking so much about price as I was looking at the quote that was done. But if that's the one it is chosen, that's one Mike recommended, the price is better than it was on the quote. So if that's the decision, we can go with that. He also contacted a company in Bangor, RM Flag Company, which,
Right.
and they actually spec'd out 2 new stoves. We decided not to go the route of used, but to go new. They had basically a similar to the one that was quoted, the used one, Garland model, 24-inch griddle, 6 burners, pretty much identical to what we have there now. New, that one was $5,400, and that's not with delivery or setup or those expenses, that's just for the range itself. And another one was a Vulcan, which is a pretty well-known brand. That one was almost $5,500, and again, that's without all the extras that are needed to install and get it up and running.
What were the warranties on each of the stoves?
These are both 1 year, limited parts and labor warranty. Those are the new ones.
Were those the new ones, just 1 year?
Yep.
So,
I did, and he did. He called and asked, because remember, we kind of looked at a bunch that were around $2,600, $2,800. Those are all Chinese stoves. And what was found out was they were selling them pretty fast. And they haven't had a lot of reports back on issues. But he suspected that somewhere down the road, if we need parts, they may not be available for us. So going with a respected brand, a US brand, is probably the best way to go, Mike thought.
well, I would prefer to buy local, even if it's US. I mean, it's local, but not for me.
Yep.
I had discussed inductive stoves with you, and I did my own research on it and realized that that would not be a good fit for Rockwood. Simply because, one, you need special cookware. And although it's cast iron and another thing, but you don't know what people are gonna bring in, so it might be the wrong.
Yeah. What we have up there for cookware is a lot of leftover donated
Yeah.
materials. So we do have some cast iron, we've got some aluminum, kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah. And
I did also look at some ranges, and 2 30-inch ranges would equal the 60 inches of what's there now.
Right.
And it would be double ovens, but we're set up for gas, and that's what I think would be best for us to go with.
Well, I was also thinking that the gas would be, I prefer cooking on gas myself anyway, so it's like unbiased there. But also with the gas and propane, you have an extra heating source in case you really need to have extra heating source.
Yeah, if you have an ice storm up there with no power for 5 days, and we're using the community center as a,
We do have a generator
yeah.
hooked up.
I think we're all in favor of gas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 We have an old generator that powers both the fire station and the community building, they're just
Yeah.
a driveway apart. But it's old, it was donated to the fire department, it's hooked up and running. But, you know, if we did have 5 days without power up there, I don't know if we could keep it running for 5 days.
But anyway, but at the same point, 2 30-inch propane ranges. John was mentioning the style that had the griddle in the middle.
That'd be 2,000 plus by the time you're done, easily, anyway, so.
Yeah, I think going commercial with the used Garland stove. Mike thought that was a good deal for it, and it's even less than the quote was. So,
Yeah, I think that the used one is probably our best bet.
that's the way I'm leaning. I did look at the email you sent out today with the Corinna Fire Department stove.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that and I'm going, I think that may be a Garland model. Picture was a little vague and it didn't list what it was.
Right.
But it did look smaller than the 60 inches. Because it only had 4 burners and a grill, so.
Right.
There wasn't a whole lot of details with that. Didn't look particularly clean.
He said it was clean, but it didn't look clean.
I know, yeah, the picture was taken before he cleaned it.
Let's hope it was taken before he cleaned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have the extra quotes for new ones if anybody wanted to take a look at those.
When it gets down to our resolution, we'll continue that then. Thank you. I can't see who's behind Patrick. Hi.
He's gonna be introduced by the
Yeah.
DA.
So I will start with our DA, Megan.
Thanks. So yes, I did want to introduce to you Christopher Dostie. We are most fortunate that he has agreed to be our new office manager with your agreement, and this is on your agenda for later today. We really lucked out here. As you know, Natalie was our office manager for about 8 years, and losing her to Kennebec County, while I know that's still within my district, she just really wanted to have a position where she could work 40 hours a week. And being an office manager is not that position, which Chris realizes, but he's still ready to step up and take the job. He's been with us for 2 years. Before that, he has been in retail management for over 2 decades. He has took some business administration classes at UNE. He's a native Mainer, lives in Fairfield in Commissioner Cezak's district, and is just really been a delight for our office, is well respected by everyone who interacts with our office, and we're just extremely fortunate that he is willing to take on a position that is a lot of time, it's a lot of hours, and it's really stressful. So it's fun to be here to introduce him to you.
Great, thank you. Good. Come on up.
You haven't hired me yet.
Hey, you gotta go ahead and register to live in Fairfield.
Maybe we ought to go to that resolution right now and get it done.
Well, we'll let him sit on pins and needles and tell him, so he knows how hard the job really is. He might escape. Sure.
Exterior patrol is extremely busy. The big news really is on the jail side. The commissioner of MDOC is trying to push some mandates, which we're working with the MCCA, that could potentially have huge fiscal notes for the county. And the state's contribution to the county jails has diminished greatly, so there's a battle in the near future.
Is the MSA, we're gonna work together?
Yeah, so we have Rebecca Graham, very smart lady from MMA. She attends some of our meetings, and Commissioner Gordon from Cumberland is also represents the MCCA. And so there's a couple process. The first process goes through this standards committee, goes to an MDOC board. So I think it's almost kangaroo court. They'll pretty much approve. We're really going to have to we will appeal that if it doesn't go the way that will protect county to the legislature. commissioner's saying this has no fiscal impact, that's why he can do this, when in fact it has it potentially has a great fiscal impact on the counties.
What are the particular, I mean, without too many details, what are we talking about for these unfunded mandates?
Well, one of the standards, one of the biggest standards we're fighting, it's called P31. It talks about punitive, well, it doesn't talk about the punitive repercussions, but it says that the jail cannot be over their boarding rate, their ADP rate, their average daily population. Each county jail has what you can hold for inmates. If you should go over that, which Somerset is very fortunate because of the jail that we have, but sister counties such as Penobscot, Androscoggin, they're over all the time. There was a list of things that you would have to do, and then if you did, you would force counties to board people out. Our position has been that 75% of our population is pre-trial, which is controlled by the courts, and the courts is a state function, and so because you have the courts that are having problems where we have to hold these people longer than, well, there's an argument there, but we hold our pre-trial inmates, so you're going to penalize the counties because the states can't move, for whatever reason, move these people through fast enough. Another standard that he wants to try to push through is that no medicine will be allowed at the county jails brought in. So, I mean, we triage that all through our medical department, and sometimes we get people that a pill costs over, $1,000. So we're saying, once we vet it through our medical, why would the county take on that cost? Why can't we use that person's own medicine? And the MDOC is against that also. So we'll be fighting those battles in the near future. That's just a couple.
Yeah, thanks. And one of the other contradictions in that is they want to maintain, say that you can only have so many people in holding, but we can give you as many as we want. So there you are, all of a sudden bringing in prisoners that exceed the amount. And there's no real rationalization for that, for saying one thing and doing the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Some of those policies are contradict themselves within the policy.
Exactly.
But I'm more worried about the potential fiscal impact to the county taxpayer if in fact these policies go through.
And that's one of the workarounds that the state is trying to do to get around the Constitution, the amendment that says that you cannot have any unpaid mandates, unfunded mandates. So they're pushing mandates that are unfunded on us. Thank you. Is that it? Any questions? Jan?
I really don't have anything, Commissioner, I appreciate it. I just wanted to hear the ACO discussion, so.
Well, good, and I want to thank you for being here, because I wanted to be able to thank you for attending the fire chiefs meetings and keeping up to date and helping them out with their, keeping in tune with their radio problems.
Yes.
So, if that can be figured out, that'll be a great.
No, I just remembered. I don't want to forget this. Last Saturday night, Detective Leal was honored by the Sexual
Assault Crisis and Support Center.
For his work. Your DA was also recognized, so.
Wonderful.
I want you guys to make you aware of that.
Great, that's wonderful. Congratulations to both. Well, we are all set with our department heads, and the unfinished business has been conquered. We've put that to the back burner, and we are moving on to new business, resolution 24-193, to approve commissioner's mileage for the first quarter of FY 2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? go. And resolution 24-194 to approve the hiring of Christopher Dostie as the office manager for Somerset District Attorney's Office.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? There we go. Resolution 24-195 to authorize the posting of a legal secretary position in the Somerset District Attorney's Office.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 24-196 to approve the payment of $15,000 from community benefit funds to the Heartland Historical Society for completion of their matching grant project.
Second.
You guys are doing good. Any discussion? All in favor? No capital reserve expenditures, unorganized territory, resolution 24-197 to approve the spending from Rockwood Community Center Building Fund to replace the cook stove on site. In that resolution, it'd be nice to suggest which stove and how much, not to exceed how much money.
What are you looking for?
I would say that if the correct sale price,
I will need to talk to them and see what we can arrange, because we know the stove is less than it was quoted on. And I need to see if they're willing to take the old stove and get some value and reduce what we pay them. They take the old stove and,
well, in their quote, they said they take the old stove for $100.
what was that?
In their quote, they do say they
Oh,
take
okay.
the old stove and, but we would pay them $100 to remove it.
Oh, we pay them.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole thing, the whole shebang in the original quote came to $4,000.
Yeah.
With this reduction sale price that I saw advertised,
Yep,
it would bring it down to the original, that $3,500
Yes.
quote.
yep.
So,
So if I made a motion that we raise the sum of, a sum not to exceed $4,000 for the purchase of the 60-inch Garland model used stove.
Cover installation too.
that would cover everything.
To include installation,
Transportation, installation.
with all
Yeah.
the particulars, and authorize Tim or Dave to get that done.
I'd second that, but I have a question related to the amount approved, because last meeting we approved not to spend in excess of $5,000 for a stove.
Well,
I think that-
5,000.
Yeah, I think you
So we
guys,
only need to do it.
No, that's what I mean, is that, do we necessarily have to go through this, because we've already approved up to $5,000.
I think you're right, yeah.
Just need the specific model.
We don't
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we purchase the 60-inch Garland model X60, whatever the number is that we have in our materials. That's the one we're talking about. Tim, does that make sense?
I can work with that.
Okay.
I can work with that.
One quoted from C. Pepara with
Yeah.
a new price.
Yeah. Any
That's my
questions?
motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Good.
Okay.
Resolution 24-198 to approve a pole location permit for Central Maine Power on Lake Moxie Road in the township of Moxie Gore.
So moved.
Second.
So I'll
Does that
just,
do anything to the road?
I'll just add, if you've been a selectman or a counselor, you've dealt with these before, so you'll have to sign a poll permit.
Right.
And Dave hadn't had to deal with this before, and so this is, to me, it's kind of a belt and suspenders. You're taking a motion, you're deliberating in a public meeting, and then you'll sign the form. But on this form, they indicate where they're going to be placing the pole in the right-of-way. And it's, in a town, what you do, this would go to the road commissioner would drive out there saying, okay, it's not going to interfere with anything. So essentially, Dave is functioning that way, saying it's not going to interfere with anything.
We get them fairly often, and in some locations, I get Phil involved, and he does go out and check it. In this case, it's just our right of way, it's between two existing poles, but somebody is building a new house, and it's gotta be off his driveway. He's already got 2 posts installed on his driveway, but to get hooked up to their lines, we need another pole out by the power line. So
In the right of way.
it's pretty straightforward, it doesn't create any issues for us. But this one had places for each commissioner to sign. And I know I've brought these to commissioners before. I don't remember having 5 commissioners sign one of these before.
Usually,
It's a little bit different than it was.
Yeah,
It looks a lot like a municipal one that you'd
Yeah,
normally
it's
see.
similar with the diagram, they have diagram of poles and that stuff.
okay, that's good. It should be, actually.
So the reason why we would be doing that signing is because it is part of UG, is that?
Right, it's a county road.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and they will file it in deeds. We send it back to them, they file it in deeds.
So, motion to approve.
Did we already make the motion?
Yep, I think Commissioner Johnson and Seacons, there's already a motion second. Yeah.
give me the way to go.
I know.
I'm ready to vote, that's what I'm saying. I move the motion.
No. All in favor? Warrants, resolution 24-199 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general funds, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territories, TIF tax revenue, and TIF community benefit, for a total of $448,856.76.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? To go. Miscellaneous discussion items?
I have, Dave,
Yes.
I need you to send me and the rest of the commissioners, the satellite, how do you get a hold of that thing up there we paid for? You know, the camp, you know, the,
Photographs.
Oh, you mean the area, the auto imagery that we paid for?
yeah, I've never been able to get onto it.
Okay, there's a parcel viewer through the LUPC that will show you everything that's online. You don't need any special program software on your computer. Just go to the website, put in what town you're looking for, and you can zoom in to any areas you want. If I can get you that.
Yeah, few words, I haven't had any logs.
Yeah, that'd be good if you
Yeah.
sent that link to us. So we
I'll
know
send that link,
How
yeah.
to use that.
I've been trying for 2 years.
Well, thank you. Solving the mystery here.
Congratulations.
Any other discussion? Being done, we can proceed to recess to execute documents.
I didn't bring my gun.
So he's done for the next several weeks, but I think about the next several days, but I think she'll be working from home. Okay. And I think she's going to set up those positions to start. I'll need to, resume.
Will you get,
Good.
Goldberg?
When she gets back.
Thank you, Blake.
I wear an orange helmet. I will well, ring. People shoot at noise.
I haven't hunted in years.
Are you a hunter?
I gotta get my,
Yes, sir.
That
Oh, man.
mileage.
He owns enough land, he doesn't have to put cars.
Yeah, it's right out the window, bro. Pretty close.
I can't say that.
Second one here around my place, I got my avid.
I was looking for it.
That's when I gotta get to the DA's.
My license. It's not my 2015.
Part of this process.
And I found my, I found my 2019 one. So I won't have to take out a safety.
Yeah, game cameras are popping up everywhere.
I know, now people are using the, knocking over their signs.
Yeah.
I got 8 of them on that property.
You made it?
You do? For deer?
Or anything.
Oh, show him the picture.
And can you look on your phone and see if any one of them is?
No, I haven't bought that. I have to have.
Now,
Oh, yeah, to have it.
got the tax.
Can you buy the camera?
Okay.
So what do you do? Just
About.
download an
He's out with
application? No.
Yeah, he's found some weird animal on his land that he didn't really identify.
Investor would order
Well, see.
You probably got a lot of inmates.
He's tied up with all-
haven't seen many.
That's why it's an inmate in disguise. He's got his furry costume on.
Just this past year, first time.
Like one of those inmates, sounds so.
He's so busy, I wonder
Oh, there it is.
if someone else.
Kids
Well,
will be busy.
Well, just a while ago, Dave, one of the detectives, stopped at the house, talked to my dad, says there was someone out in that area that they were trying to.
We had to initial those or?
So I checked the game cams and no pictures, but.
It's really changed this. Considerably on these cameras. We had a murder up
So we're at the end of our,
in county, Littleton, or
you go on Stapleton stuff or?
Maybe.
this guy,
John,
It wasn't super law, it was
and
not.
I had a,
You mean like the judge that got shot?
I guess this guy comes to the door.
Process, so everybody knows
The
what.
guy opens the door and there's a guy with a gun and bang, it's all caught on camera.
Just for no reason?
we can't adjourn until John signs the paperwork.
no option.
You're holding up a German. You're holding up a German.
Oh, sorry.
One German.
I know I didn't upload it. No.
You must be waiting for the warrant.
That's the poll permit, that's the mileage.
Look at all this mileage, Jesus.
Dangerous in this town.
That's a far walk.
know.
They can't just drive a skid row really either.
Yeah, we still had some Skinner
I
problems.
gotta be honest, you gotta do something soon.
It's kinda pricey.
You have to get towns to sign up for it.
I could just envision that. Central cost.
Be another headache. I'm glad it's under the admin budget.
I saw, he said, because you know what that means, is when they can't get a hold of the ACO.
Oh, sure.
They're calling.
Yeah, your name's right on the, in the internet with the phone number.
Been there. Man, we were on track for, I was
gonna
had
say,
us at
what was the
405. I had us at 405. If we didn't get that,
There you go.
did we get that stove stuff done? Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're done, right?
Have a good evening, gentlemen.
Yes, you too.
Good,
I'll be around. Oh, yeah.
we're off.
When's that thing down the base hall? No, no.
Why don't I sign myself up for that? That's a good idea.
Democratic.
Our ACO committee.
I think you're looking at more ways for the county to partner with the towns, and I think that's all gonna.
I don't see us having
Where
a
they sent you.
$300,000 addition to our budget to fund two
Oh, because you're
ACOs.
treasurer.
250.
But we don't have ordinance making powers for the town, so.
We have it for the UT, but not for the town. So I kept jotting down ideas as I kept hearing them, it's like, and Chief Buckman's probably right, it's like, you know, you can tax everybody, but that doesn't mean you are.
No, we should have a contract, we should have a,
So you should have a contract and make it based on per capita.
yeah, they at least pay what they're paying now. Improvement of quality of service, they should pay more.
Well, Scotty,
Who's the new ACO in Skowhegan?
Sheriff. Jail, I have the beef rep.
that's right.
I don't know anything else for that. You're right, there is something coming out. There was something that starts
$30.
last Saturday. Well, it was going to be Sunday.
Okay, well, thank you.
This 13th was Sunday, but I can't
I'll just
remember
make sure
now.
that we get that.
For some reason, I don't have it
I'll
on.
have to look at it. my computer.
ACO case that we're talking about.
Email it to me, please.
Yeah.
That is the
Are
discussion.
you gonna come?
Well, we'll let
I thought about it.
You should.
I don't want to, we're on Republican, I didn't want to, Shannon Bell over there, so I
Yeah. You can come, you're not gonna hurt her or anything, there's no problem. She's the Secretary of State for all the people, you're one of the people.
That's true. That's true.
What shall we do now?
No, have an hour.
He's a guest speaker at a Democratic soiree in Somerset County. At the Union Hall?
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
you can come, you're welcome.
Oh, you mean it hasn't happened yet?
No, it's gonna happen.
When?
I don't know. I thought it was in my calendar, I didn't have it on my calendar. So,
Yeah, no, I do really like her. She's a very hard worker, and whenever I've had anything that needed to happen with the Secretary of State's office, she's always handles it personally. And with like enormous amount of knowledge and digs right in, and I'm extremely impressed with her.
oh, she's great. She's great. And Julie Flynn is great too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got two super people right there.
Super, absolutely
Yeah.
super.
Yeah.
And then I also like the person Jenna hired for Joanne.
So when you say we,
Have you met her,
I don't know
Joanne?
her, no.
She does all of the communication for legislation.
I have the utmost respect
Yeah,
for you.
that's a good group.
Yeah, oh, yeah. How are you?
I like your hat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice, nice. Do
Liz-
you,
Liz Cheney.
you're not, are you up for election? This year? Do you have a vote?
They're in their own fight.
You do?
They're in their own fight.
Whoa.
Yeah, I do.
Who's your opponent?
Carolyn, oh, no, Warren.
I texted her.